Hey you guys, it's Bray. Tonight we're here with an update to the video that I posted yesterday. Recently it has been discussed that Alicia Doherty and Amber from the Happy Caravan share the same management company. That video is going around over on Reddit and I was asked about it a couple of times. We're going to talk about that today, but I also want to talk about why this family is on some people's radar and why they were discussed early on and also why they're being discussed now, as well as some updated thoughts about management companies, fees, and what I think about everything. So if you're interested, please keep watching. All right, you guys, so the Happy Caravan is a 12-person family. They have 10 children, 2 parents, and most of their social media is done by their mom, Amber, and she's the one who kind of orchestrates the social media side of their online presence. All 10 of their kids do play classical instruments, and their children seem to be very talented, and their talent brought them from California over here to the East Coast, and they live in New York City right now. And their adventure from California to New York is what actually got people talking early on about them. And Amber had uploaded this video, how our family of 12 sleeps in our 30-foot trailer. And it says, people have asked about how our family of 12 sleeps in our 30-foot trailer. It's not perfect, but it's more comfy than a tent because there is heat, AC, and a fridge. Airstream, RV life, family RV. Now let's just talk about the RV family concept on social media. I know that there are several families that do this, and some of them are short-term, some are long-term, and they do it so that they can travel with their family across the United States, see all of the, I guess, some of the lovely things that the United States has to offer as far as landmarks, resorts, beaches, parks, all the good things. The reason that a lot of people have issue with this is because when you're talking about that many children in such a small confined space, privacy issues come into play. And obviously if you have 2 or 3 kids, that's completely different than if we're talking about in between 5 and 12 kids. And in this situation, 10 kids. I think in between the privacy and the comfort part of things, that's what a lot of these comments are calling out. I see the first comment here. You need to get the kids some foam or something they can roll out so they're not just sleeping on the hard floor, or the foam things that some daycare centers use. You have a kid sleeping on the hardwood floor, no pad or anything to lay down on? I would actually cry myself to sleep if I was forced to do this. And if you're thinking, well, the kids are sleeping on the floor, I'm sure the parents are sleeping on the floor too, right? No. Let's watch this video and then I'll continue with my thoughts.
How we sleep in the trailer. This is where the little girls sleep. It used to be a table, but it converts into a bed. Here's the couch and Noah's sleeping on it. Here's where Enoch sleeps.
I might have to mute this part because of the music that she's using, but I'll explain to you guys. Essentially, she shows the first couple of kids, another kid is on the couch, and then we get to another kid who is literally sleeping on the hardwood floor. In fact, I'm going to have to explain this anyway because I'm going to have to blur it, so you guys won't even know what the hell I'm talking about. But I will try to edit it so you guys have some idea of what's going on here. But you get to this child who literally has a tiny pillow and a blanket and is just sleeping on the floor.
Here's Elijah. He has a top bunk. And down here are Pearl and Naomi.
So 2 girls share the bottom bunk here, which is a normal bed, and then there is another child on the top bunk, which is also a normal bed.
Here's where Josiah sleeps.
And now we have another child on the hardwood floor.
This is where Moses sleeps. And this is where Mommy and Daddy sleep.
And then, of course, the youngest infant is in a crib, which is expected, and then we go to the parents, comfy bed, multiple pillows, When I went into this, I kind of thought that there's no way that I'm not going to not like Amber, but unfortunately, it doesn't take a lot of diving into their content to figure out why a lot of people are raising concerns with this channel. Now, she did leave a comment on my other video, which I will read when we get to that part of the of this video. But this to me is kind of crazy. Not only do you have the privacy issues, but also the comfort issues, and then to know that the parents are sleeping in a bed in the trailer while their literal kids are sleeping on the hardwood floor with one pillow, one blanket, and that can't feel good. You can't tell me that that feels good. So now, more recently, she did the New York City apartment tour, and it said, "How we sleep our family of 12 in our NYC apartment. We live on the top 3 floors of a brownstone building. There are 2 floors beneath." And I'm definitely going to have to mute this because there is a song by Dean Martin playing. So I will explain to you guys what's going on. So we have one area here with a bunk bed, one child on each bed. Then we have a second bedroom where there's another bunk bed with one on each, and then another small bed that sleeps another child. So there's 3 kids in this room. Now we have another bunk bed situation that pulled down from the wall, and there are another 2 kids in this bunk bed situation. Two more with a bunk bed situation. And then mom and dad have a big comfy bed again. At least there's no kids sleeping on the floor in the apartment. Yes, I'm being a little snarky with that, but you know, this is concerning for a lot of people because when you have this many children in smaller confined quarters, obviously if you're going to have this many kids, you need to, you know, think about space, think about privacy. Like as the kids get older, you know, older kids don't necessarily want to be sharing a space with a sibling that is younger than them. Like, I don't know. And, you know, I'm coming at this with no direct experience because obviously I don't have 10 kids. I don't have the experience of what caring for 10 kids is like. But at the same time, first we had the trailer video, okay? That upset people. Then now we have the family living in New York City. Neither of the parents are working actively. The dad is looking for work in graphic design. He is not actively employed. Then mom stays home and, you know, helps the kids with what they're doing during the day. This entire move was so that the kids could work on their classical music, but you are relying on your children busking, as she calls it, combined with social media income to float the whole lifestyle. And I will go back to the roots of my channel. If your content is if your bills are reliant upon you showing your children on social media or your kids pulling the weight or your kids doing something in order to pay the bills, that is the cornerstone of what family vlogging is. Kids paying the bills for their household. Look at channels like Ryan's World, the LeBrant Fam, the Ace Family, all of these family channels where you have a parent and children. The parent stays home. The kids are the faces of the social media presence. Therefore, the children are paying the bills. Difficult, your children don't have space of their own. It's very beneficial for growth. This is prison. No type of privacy. This family has a lot of very devout fans, very similar to the Doherty Dozen. But what I will say is it's a little alarming to know that these kids, whether they're teenagers, young kids, obviously it's a mix of both, to have these children performing in order to literally pay for rent is a very risky, and it crosses over into an exploitation type situation. Now, moving on to the busking. The actual definition of busking is the activity of playing music in the street or another public place for voluntary donations. And I wanted to look into, do you need a permit? Do you need a license? Because obviously New York City, like, there's tons of performers. Do they have licenses? Like, what's the deal? According to the Manhattan Beat, which is a blog as of 2021, unamplified musicians can perform legally without a permit on most sidewalks and public spaces. You can play between 9 a.m. and 8 p.m. if you are within 50 feet of a residential building, and until 10 p.m. anywhere else. So keep in mind, once we start watching this TikTok, her kids are not doing anything illegal. But just because something isn't illegal doesn't mean that it shouldn't be talked about, doesn't mean that people can't be upset about it. And this video was just uploaded about 2 weeks ago. So it says, the Happy Caravan Busking Controversy Part 1, Why and How We Started Busking. And I have a feeling she's probably going to become very repetitive in this video. I am not sure if I will listen to the entire thing because it is over 9 minutes long. And I don't want to bore you guys half to death, but I do want to hit some of the comments. But let's listen to the first couple of minutes and see what she has to say.
This is Amber from the Happy Caravan. I'm a mom of 10 kids and we live in New York City. And today I'm going to talk about the most controversial thing that comes up in the comments and in like videos about us and stuff, and that is busking. I'm going to tell you about like why we started and kind of address some of the myths and try and just give you the straight up truth about what's really going on with our busking. Okay, so this is how we started busking. This is 2010, vintage family here. So we had 5 kids at the time, and 3 of the kids were old enough to go to Strings by the Sea music camp in California. And the kids wanted to go. And I asked for a scholarship and they gave us a scholarship. The amount we still needed to pay was $500, and we did not have $500. So I talked to the camp manager and I was like, you know, we can't afford this. We don't have the money. Like, at the time, my husband was making like $50,000 a year. Our mortgage was $1,700. We had food. Carla Holland Moritz was the person who ran the camp, and she was from the San Diego Symphony. And she was like, no, I'm not going to reduce the price for you guys, but I think you guys can earn the $500 to go to this camp. And so I was like, okay. And so she's like, you guys can play out front of libraries. You guys can play at the park. You guys can play music. And at the time, I played with the kids. I played viola with them. Since then, my viola has been stolen out of the car. I don't play with them anymore. I do sometimes play certain things with them, but I mean, they're much better without me. So anyway, so through multiple times.
I want to make something clear in the beginning of this video too. I have no problem with busking if it's going 100% back to the kids, their tuition, their instruments, or just odds and ends that they might want to buy, whether it's a new outfit or maybe they want to save for a vehicle, whatever their situation is. I have no problem with that. The problem that I have is that if the money that they're earning from busking is going towards rent, groceries, household utilities, that's a problem. I just think that there needs to be some kind of line drawn in the sand where your kids are not paying your bills. Like, is the busking money really theirs? Because if they're performing for it and mom and dad aren't there, which eyewitness accounts that people that live in New York City have seen these kids performing on the street many times, or in the subway stations or in a park, mom and dad aren't there. So if you're sending your children out to perform and they're collecting money and you're bringing your kids home and they're giving that money to you and you spend it on rent, that is a problem. Now, if it goes into an account for them and it's, you know, there whenever they want or need it, that is understandable. But yeah, like if we're sending the kids out to go play, whether or not they enjoy playing, it could be their favorite activity. But if that money is going towards paying rent, that is a big red flag.
Of going to libraries, we made anywhere from like $30 to $60 every time we went to these various places to play. And we made enough money to go to Strings by the Sea music camp. So we're like, oh, okay, cool. So we didn't busk for a long time after that. And then 2 years later, Josiah had completely outgrown his Suzuki teacher experience. And there was only one really good teacher, violin teacher, like really good teacher in San Diego. He was in northern San Diego and he was Russian. And so I requested an audition and he told me to come by. So, you know, we packed up all the kids and we went by this Russian teacher's house. I went in with Josiah to go to this like trial lesson. And so Josiah played for this teacher, and this teacher with his Russian accent, like, you were very good.
I think the question that a lot of people have is, how is it that these kids are, like, how is a family of 12 able to survive in New York City in a multiple bedroom apartment? Like, freaking studios in New York go for an insane amount right now. Everybody knows that. You don't have to live in New York to know that the rent prices in New York are way up there. How is a family of 12 living in New York City with 10 children, all playing musical instruments? They have a decent house, even though they need something bigger. It is a decent home. Even if they're sticking to a budget, like, there's no income from the parents having a job. Everything revolves around the kids and their talent, whether it's the social media presence or them performing outside and busking, as she wants to focus on. It kind of seems like no matter which direction you go, the kids are the ones paying the bills, and that is a lot of pressure to put on kids, even if they're doing something that they love.
I will be happy to take you. And then comes the nail biter moment, because his price kind of fluctuates. Sometimes he'll give you a little bit of a deal if you don't have a lot of money. So I was like, we don't have a lot of money. And, you know, any deal you can give us on lessons would be greatly appreciated. And so he's like, well, usually, I can't do a Russian accent. Pretend I'm talking with a Russian accent. Usually I charge $160 for a 1 hour lesson. But for you, I will give you a 45-minute lesson for $95. So I'm like, okay, that's a deal, but still, we can't pay that. I know we can't pay that. But I still make an appointment for Josiah to have a lesson next week for $95 with no idea how we're going to pay that. So
she doesn't need to act like she's speaking with a Russian accent. It comes off as a little artificial and kind of annoying, but let's keep going.
Josiah and I walk out of the lesson and I go into the car with Mark, waiting with the kids. And Mark's like, so how'd it go? And I'm like, fine. He wants to take him, you know. And Mark's like, okay. I was like, he has a lesson next Wednesday. And so then I tell him that it's going to be $95.
So literally not having $95 to do this lesson, I don't know. Tell me how you guys feel about this down below. If your kid is interested in sports or playing an instrument or something, whatever it is, and you literally don't have any money to spare, what do you do with that? Because anyone who gets involved with musical instruments or sports or anything extracurricular, you know that there's going to be fees. You're going to have to pay for lessons, pay for equipment, pay for, you know, if they're an art student, you're going to need new art supplies or refill supplies. Like, I don't know, I'm very torn on this situation. The things that I'm unsure of, I'm still unsure of, but the things that I have seen that I have a problem with is what I'm going to voice in this video. And I want to check the comments and kind of see how you guys feel about this. Like, you guys that are parents, sound off down below. Like, what do you do with that? Your kid is really interested in this, but you also realize that you don't have the $90 to ever pay for lessons because you have multiple other kids to take care of. Like, what do you do with that?
I look online. We need obviously to make more than $60 out busking because we have a $95 lesson. So I'm like, okay, how are we gonna do this? So I look online about different places to go busking in San Diego, and one of them said the Ocean Beach Farmers Market. And so I'm like, bingo. So on Tuesday, remember the lessons on Wednesday, on Tuesday night is when the farmer's market is. So we go to the farmer's market and we play, you know, our classical music. Now we're dressed in classical music clothes. Now this is a very like peace and love hippie like farmer's market, you know, it's right by the beach, you know, youth hostel down the street, you know, and so we go with our classical music, but they loved it. I mean, we brought a little napkin basket, and not a good idea if you're gonna go busking because the money just flies out like down the street. But anyway, we brought a little napkin basket and we made $102. And it was like, oh, like that's the $95 plus that's travel money. You know, we're able to make enough money to like for gas, right? So, you know, that's kind of where things started. And, you know, as we progressed, we've had to be more strategic because like more and more kids outgrew like the $20 lessons and they needed the $95 lessons. So in the midst of this, we're at the Russian teacher's house one night. You know, we're paying for multiple kids to go to these, you know, $100-ish lessons every week through busking.
Okay, so I'm going to chop this up a little bit because she kind of rambles, which is totally fine, but I also want to make this digestible for my subscribers. Now, when it comes to where the busking came from originally, that's great. If this is going to be something where the money is sent directly back for lessons, I don't think anyone has that much of a problem with that situation because it's going directly back into the talent. But someone left a comment here and said, but is 100% of the money going back to the kids, not towards food or rent? Do the kids have the option not to play when they don't want to? And someone responded and said the husband isn't working, so nope, the kids are supporting the entire family. This person left a comment and said, I was a child who had to work growing up. Having the burden of needing to make money to help support my parents and family damaged me greatly. I think that's how a lot of these family vlogging kids are going to end up feeling. And I think that there are going to be a lot of really hurt relationships. There's going to be a lot of bonds that are severed beyond repair. And it's going to be really sad to hear about if we ever hear about it, because I always say, like with these kids of family vloggers, some of them might choose to keep their stories to themselves, and that is their choice to do. But yeah, it's not good. So the busking thing, fine. I don't like that she's doing roll calls like the Doherty dozen. Don't like that at all. But let's see their income video.
Wants to know about our finances. Like, I've done a very long set of busking videos, like what busking is, you know, how much we make, even like what it goes towards. Like, that's how we pay for music, and our music bill is very chunky. But we have other chunky bills. And the thing about New York City, yes, rent is expensive, but that can be the only expensive thing in the city, because you like, well, obviously it's the only thing that's more expensive, because if you shop at grocery stores and you cook at home, like a lot of times you see these people and they're like high flying out there and they're like going out to eat all the time and this and that. You don't have to do that. You know, if you have a stove and a fridge, like you can just buy your food at Costco and cook it at home, and it's so much. I mean, like $1 per kid per meal. Like we you know, find ways to be really frugal. Some people see us out and about and they'll be like, oh, well, I see you, you know, go to restaurants, and I see you, you know, buy things at stores and so forth. And honestly, I'll be honest, sometimes restaurants will give us food in exchange for content. And they'll be like, hey, just make a video about it. So, you know, they get 100,000 views on their restaurant and we get a free meal. And so it's like, yeah, good. That works. The other thing that we do is that, like, well, our relatives will sometimes, like, they'll be like, hey, you know, get some pizza on me, or, you know, hey, get something special for the kids or whatever. And so, you know, that's money that's been given to us for a specific purpose, to give the kids something special, you know, not for like, you know, buying a broom. Like, you know, it's like, get them a toy, get them something fun, something special. And so that's what we do. We honor that request. And so if you see us spending money, a lot of times that's what it is. Husband's still looking for work, but at the same time, there's this really untenable situation. This is the only place we can find to rent. We're trying not to get evicted. And so what we do is my husband takes the kids every day to go practice their instruments at Golden Gate Park. You're supposed to practice 3 hours a day as a classical musician. So he takes them, they practice for 3 hours at Golden Gate Park. Parking garages, you know, wherever they can find where there's shelter and it's not like, you know, too cold or too whatever, you know. So you know, that's the big chunk at the beginning of the day, you know, and so like him like getting a normal job during that time, not that any really showed up, but you know, just like, so he's really focusing on trying to work online. So he tries to like do graphic design and do like the entrepreneurial self-employment route, and just there's not a lot coming in, and it's like, okay, what are we gonna do? I'm trying to like do social media because I'm like, well, that's a good way to make money, right? If, you know, like he's struggling, I'm like, maybe I can help with stuff. And so I start doing social media and we start actually making money on social media. It's like at the same time, it's not enough to live on, but it's, you know, it's enough to, you know, buy a few weeks worth of groceries or whatever. I mean, it's, you know, it's money. Then after that, a media company contacts us and they're like, hey, you know, we think your family's interesting. We'd like to maybe try a pilot show of your family. So we're like, okay, cool. Like that might work out. That could be like our income, right? So do contract and everything, and that's kind of the mindset we're in as we're moving to New York City. We ended up moving to New York City because San Francisco, we'd once again capped out. You know, it just seemed like New York City was the next place where like there was not so much of a cap on, you know, what the kids could study and so forth. So we get to New York City, and like shortly after we move here, they're like, sorry, we're gonna have to cancel your contract. And we're like, like, okay. So around this time, I start kind of working it more on the social media fronts, and things are starting to kind of work out. We're starting to get more money on social media, and then a manager contacts us, and he's like, hey, you know, I'd like to work with you guys, and he actually works with like big family brands and so forth, and so I'm like, oh, cool, you know. So the management company like talks to us, and they kind of like help us, and so we sign on with them. They're kind of coaching us, and like all of a sudden we're actually able to make enough money on social media to like pay the, like this is the first month we're able to like pay these base expenses without dipping into savings like down to zero almost.
So here's the thing. She says that the busking pays for lessons and instruments. I understand that part of it, and I don't think anyone has an issue with that part on its own. But they're also carrying the social media, which the social media is what's actually paying for rent. So my question constantly when I look at family vloggers is, would your channel survive if you took your kids off of the platform? If you no longer shared your kids, would your channel survive? Could you still do parenting style content, day in the life content, cooking, shopping, whatever you do? Would those videos be able to sustain your monthly bills without your kids ever being shown? Or if they were shown, you know, they're like, their back is turned or whatever. I know some influencers get a little creative with it, which I think is really cool because they're still incorporating parenting stuff, but they are hiding the identity of their children. So even if the argument of the busking that a lot of people have talked about for a while now, if we're to take her word at face value, the busking pays for the music and the lessons and the you know, whatever the kids need with this music situation that they have. The problem is that the income that's actually paying for rent is still floating on the backs of her kids. You're not just out here making content on your own. Neither of the adults work in this situation. And I don't understand, like, why would this movie even take place when neither of the adults are working? Everything is dependent upon the kids, and that's where a lot of people have an issue. I don't think that this is a channel like the Doherty Dozen, despite the fact that they share the same management company. But I do also think that a lot of people will turn against her if things get worse.
Anyway, so we're out busking. People are pretty generous, and I'm super grateful for that because it definitely does help with the cost of that. But, you know, as far as like our living expenses, this and that, we're kind of like, okay, we're having to pay savings down and stuff. That's scary because that's obviously finite. But right around this time that the streaming or the media company like, oh, no, sorry, I have to cancel your contract. Then a management company contacted us, and they're a management company that manages, like, I really like the Doherty Dozen, so if they manage Doherty Dozen, like, so when they were like, hey, you're interested in management, I was like, yeah. I mean, the thing about management is you do pay them 25%, but the thing is like, they spur you on, they're an advocate for you with social media companies, you know, something goes wrong, and then also they kind of like give you ideas, they look at the back end of your analytics, and they've seen enough where they're like, okay, do this, don't do that, do this, don't do that. And I mean, I do feel like they, you know, helped us along. They also like brand deals, they negotiate that, which is good because, you know, you can really get creamed on those brand deals, so that's good. So we have done, so basically, so once the whole show thing was like, okay, that's not gonna work out, what we decided was like, okay, we can make like our own show, right? I mean, with YouTube and so forth, there's people that make a full-time living off of that stuff. The thing is that our YouTube channel hasn't gone terribly well. We have gotten some brand deals and so forth for like Instagram and TikTok, which I'm super grateful for. Like we did a brand deal with Nerf, and there's like some, you know, other like health and beauty things that are kind of coming down the pike. So that's exciting. And then we also got paid from the platform to make content. Recently, I signed up for the TikTok Creator Fund Beta program, and like if a video goes well, I can get paid like $1,000 for like a 3-minute video, which is like amazing. Even though it sounds like, oh, that's such a good deal. Making a 3-minute video is actually really hard. That people actually watch that much of it, because you have to edit like bloop, 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 tiny little edits, tiny little slices, you know, because like when you're dealing, particularly with TikTok, it's just this scroll, like, it's boring, scroll, 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 and you only get paid for how much people watch your video. So recently I had a video go well, and we ended up getting paid for like $1,000, and so some other videos also did well. So I'm like, well, if I can get paid enough thousands of dollars, that's rent, right? So rent is quite expensive here. So anyway, that's where we're at. Mark is still kind of pursuing graphic design, but part of the way I'm able to do a lot of the social media stuff, which is like hours and hours of editing, is that he helps with the meals, and he helps with the cleaning and so forth. The kids help, and of course I do some stuff too. Like we're all like kind of a team, but he's real help in that, and so it frees me up to do the things I need to do. And then he also does graphic design for our family's business, and then he's also, you know, I think trying to kind of put his name out there and to try and get clients too. I mean, obviously that's always been a dream of his.
I don't think that Amber is being purposefully bad. I don't think that she's doing that. But I also think that it is a big, big problem to have two adults living in a nice dwelling in New York City with neither of them working and everything floating on the backs of their kids. That's the problem. So I think that her kids are super talented. I don't know if they are genuinely interested in music, or is it just an influence thing? Is it, well, I see all my siblings participating, so I kind of feel like I have to participate. I'm not sure because I don't know her kids and I don't want to know her kids. But sometimes that does happen. Like everyone else is doing this thing and you live in the same house with all these people. So do I kind of feel this indirect pressure to hop on board as well? Before I close out the video, I want to share with you guys the comment that she left on my last video for me. And essentially what she was saying is she's not 100% sure that Alicia Doherty is at the 25% threshold with the Sun and Sky Management Company. It could be less, it could be more. She doesn't know. But what I will say is historically, when I've heard other YouTubers talk about having management companies, 25 is a good average. It's not all the time, but it is a good in-between guesstimate. When it comes to them signing on with a management company, I don't know what it's going to be like. Is it going to be fruitful? Will it be a disaster? I am not sure. But historically, management companies have not done anything to excuse the amount of money that they're taking. And when you're literally in this situation where sounds like they're in not the best financial situation, I damn sure would not be giving even 20% to a damn management company. I wouldn't be doing it because it sounds like things are, you know, every dollar counts kind of thing. And that's kind of my opinion on that. I think that Amber should stay the hell away from Alicia Doherty and stop copying her content ideas, stop dropping her name, stop telling people that she is a fan of the Doherty Dozen, because it makes her look like she supports kids being exploited on YouTube. And if she is a fan of the Doherty Dozen and people see her making similar style content, they will lose respect for her faster than what we've already seen being called into question. Things are on Reddit, people are talking over there, and people are a little 50-50. Once that clip with the management company started to go around and I was sent it on Instagram, I figured that, you know, I would throw my opinion out there about this channel. Maybe I'll do an update. I am not sure. I'll see how this video goes. But I do want to hear from you guys. If there's limited money and your kids want to play instruments, like, what do you do with that? You know, like, how do you guys feel? Just drop it all down below. I will be checking the comments. So for now, if you like the video, please leave a like and a comment. And if you'd like to see more from me in the future, please subscribe. I'll see you guys soon. Bye.